Now, ladies and gentlemen, joining me today is my guest. He is an author, lecturer, radio show host, and researcher, an independent scholar in the fields of astrotheology, sexual symbolism and world religions, foundations of modern-day religion, secret societies, ancient sciences and technology, and so much more, being a prominent researcher in these areas since 1959. His work on the subject of secret societies, both ancient and modern, and their symbols has fascinated audiences around the world for decades now. And if it wasn't for his work, ladies and gentlemen, people like myself would not be here today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my guest, Jordan Maxwell, to the program. Hello, Jordan. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for allowing me. I'm always happy to be on your show, and it's quite a subject. It has no end. It's a very deep hole when you start digging into this kind of subject.
Definitely.
So where do we go? Where do we start with this basic subject?
Absolutely.
Of how
Mr.
we've
Maxwell.
been manipulated and exploited, and how we believe things which are not true, and how we accept. What was it? I think it was Napoleon that said history is a bunch of lies that we've all agreed upon. And I think that's pretty close to it. There's so much that we believe today that's just not true. And it's very destructive and it's very hurtful. But anyway, like I said, I just do what I do, and hopefully that whoever's supposed to hear me will, and whoever's not supposed to won't. So I just do what I do and see where it goes.
Absolutely.
I've been talking about this monstrosity of ignorance and ill-informed stupidity and destructiveness that's been going on for a long time. I do the best I can with it.
We all do our patriotic duty to help our citizens, Mr. Maxwell. I mean, in this empire where truth has become treason. Now, Mr. Maxwell, going into the interview, tell our listening audience of the amazing work you have done, both authoring and co-authoring books like Matrix of Power and Symbols, Sex and the Stars.
Yeah, well, the two books that I actually found Symbols, Sex and the Stars in a bookstore many years ago.
Wow.
And the other one I found, because I used to hoard books. I had over 1,000 research volumes on all kinds of dark subjects. And I've been doing this since 1959. So we're talking about 53 years of looking into the dark side of the world that we live in. And I came across two books that were incredibly important to me, and one was called Symbols, Sex, and the Stars. It was written many years ago, back in the 30s, and the other one was called Stellar Theology and Masonic Astronomy. Mm-hmm. And so I really loved those two books, and I wanted to own them. I wanted to get the copyright. Well, as it turns out, in life, I ended up working for a company in San Diego as a religion editor for a company called Truth Seeker. Mm-hmm. And as it turns out, Truth Seeker was the publisher who owned the copyright on those two books. And so I asked the company and the attorneys if I could have the copyright, mm-hmm. which they gave to me. So I ended up owning what I wanted. I wanted that, I wanted to own it. Well, I do. And so those two books have been very important to me. Again, the first one was called Symbols, Sex, and the Stars. It's probably the most well-written, easiest to read, just absolutely juicy with all kinds of interesting information about symbols and words and terms that are used in religions all over the world, where they really come from, not where you thought what it meant and you thought where it came from. But the book Symbols, Sex, and the Stars tells you exactly where all of these terms and words that are used in churches and symbols, emblems, where they really came from, what they actually mean. And so, like I said, I was fascinated with this book. And Masonic Astronomy is called Stellar Theology in Masonic Astronomy. And that basically breaks down in very simple terms how the world is how the world is conceptually works on calendars and symbols and emblems. It's a whole Masonic industry of symbols and words and terms which are used around the earth. And so with those two books, you can come out and be a genius if you go through all of that, because it's very interesting reading. It's not dry and listless. It's filled with symbols and emblems. It shows you where the ideas have come from. So those two, were very important to me. I wrote a few books myself, but I don't consider them to be very important. I am a researcher, and the word is R-E, means do it again.
Right.
So I'm standing on the shoulders of the real people, the searchers, the people who did all the hard work back in the 1700s and 1800s, and especially in the 1900s. Mm-hmm. In the 1900s, I would say from about the 1840s to 1900 was an incredible amount of profound wisdom and knowledge of researchers and people who were, investigating political establishments, religious orders. All kinds of great material was coming out from about the 1830s, 1840s, after the founding of America and freedom, given to the human race. The whole concept of being free to study anything and put it out into the public and have the freedom of speech, freedom to tell the truth and to publish it and put it in newspapers and magazines and book form. And so that's what America did for the world. It opened up a whole new concept of being able to study a subject and talk about it publicly and not have to be worried about having your hand cut off or you thrown into prison.
Right.
Like it is today. Today, of course, if you're pursuing wisdom and knowledge, you can go to prison for it. It is a very dangerous thing to do today, to be smart and to be highly educated. You need to keep your mouth shut and don't even let people know that you're smart. Don't even let people know you can read. Wow. Because they'll report you to the authorities, and so that's how far we've lost our country, and we've lost our freedoms, we've lost everything, and we've lost our jobs and our money, and now all we're doing is just losing our minds because we don't have any, the human race, especially in America, we have no power to do anything. We can't do anything. I mean, we complain and cry about a lot of stuff, but we really can't do anything. And the reason why is because we have no power to do anything. So the reason why we have no power to do anything is because knowledge is power. Right. And we have no knowledge.
Well, Mr. Maxwell, they consider people like us thought criminals, right?
That's right. If you have knowledge, you better keep your mouth shut.
Wow.
I mean, what was the presidential spokesman, the press secretary for George Bush, was Ari Fleischman, the Jewish guy, and you would think a Jew would not be saying this, but he said, Ari Fleischman said, as a presidential spokesman at one of the press conferences, he actually said, and I still have it saved, he says, if you're an American, you better watch your mouth. Wow. You better watch what you're talking about. You better keep your mouth shut. And I thought, man, what a statement from a Jew. What a statement from a Jew. Mm-hmm. You would think a Jewish guy would have remembered what happened in Nazi Germany and the Americans who went into Europe to save the Jewish people and to save freedom. You would think that a Jew would understand that America stood for the freedom and protection of the individual and the sovereignty of the individual to be able to speak, and has given the Jew that was being murdered in Europe was given a home here in America so that they could drive new cars and flashy cars and have big bank accounts and eat well and live well and have beautiful homes in Beverly Hills. You would think a Jew would be the last person who would tell his American saviors to watch your mouth. Keep your mouth shut if you're smart. You better watch what you're saying. And so I was absolutely amazed that Ari Fleischer would say something like that to America.
Right.
It was amazing and disheartening to me, although it was not surprising to me because I know who he is. I know who Ari Fleischer is. I know what he's doing. But it's just amazing how, you know, I don't have any words to explain how much I miss my country. Right. I miss America. It's gone, and I miss it because I grew up in an America where freedom of speech was just understood. I mean, I never even thought about the subject. You just say whatever you want to say, and you know, you had to be responsible, but at least you weren't going to go to jail because you had an opinion about something and you voiced your opinion. And that was just understood, freedom of speech. Well, that's gone, period. So anytime people speak out today, you're running a real close, you're running real close to the edge if you talk about intelligent things today in America. So that's why I have pretty much given up. There was a time when I was excited about my work. I'm no longer excited about what I do. I used to be.
Well, I got to tell you, Mr. Maxwell, I'm definitely excited from your work. I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to get to my next question here. Now, as you know, Mr. Maxwell, slowly but surely, you know, knowing what we know, mankind is becoming aware of the cruel game called enslavement that these oligarchs have been playing on us, many of us refusing to be that brick in the wall that constitutes the Rothschild criminal empire. But the fact of the matter is, Mr. Maxwell, since 1913, we are considered persons, corporations, you know, run by the United States, and we're used as collateral. I mean, we're even traded. Our birth certificate is traded, and it's basically a manifest. What is it? A certificate of manifest. It's traded on the stock market. I mean, under the law of the sea. I mean, tell us about one of your articles, Laws of the Land versus Laws of the Sea.
Yeah, well, that's a big subject, and it's kind of difficult for people to wrap their minds around.
Right.
Basically, what it amounts to is that there are two kinds of law. There are only two things on the earth: water and land. Basically, that's it. There's nothing else on the earth but water and land. So there are two kinds of law: the law of the land. And you've heard that term, well, this and that. Well, it's the law of the land. Well, the law of the land is one thing, but why do you use that term, law of the land? It's because in relation to that term, law of the land, there's a law of the sea, the law of water. Most people have never heard of that. Well, then why do you use the term law of the land unless there is another kind of law that it's equal to it?
Right.
And so the law of the sea is the law of water. And the law of water is what we call banking. Banks operate under something called maritime admiralty, the law of water. And once you understand that, the words and terms that we use every day becomes obvious, but you've never thought about it before. I mean, because and I wish I had the list here. I got about 4 pages of the terms that are used in maritime admiralty law, which is banking law. You're going to float a loan. You buy something that's going to be shipped to you. If you buy it on sale, money runs to your hands like water. No, money is water. Your house is underwater if you can't pay for it. And of course, when you go to court, why do you go to court? You go to court because it's a game. You play tennis on a court, play basketball on a court. And how do you play tennis on a court? You play with a racket. So when you go into court, you have a fence and a gate in the the people sit on one side and the court is on the other side. And so when your name is called, you get up and you put your hand on the gate. The gate is called a water gate. It's the gate like in I'm trying to say the Panama Canal, for instance. The canal has gates, and it opens and shuts to let the water come in and fill up so the ship can rise to the next level. So when you walk into a courtroom, there's a gate and a fence. Well, the fence and the gate symbolizes the difference between the court and the people. The people live on the land. So that's out here with the people watching the court. You are under the law of the land, the law of the people. But when you walk into the court and walk through that gate, that's a water gate. Now, once you walk past that gate, you are now in hot water. And if someone doesn't bail you out, you have to get somebody to get you out of your ship is sinking, so you're going to get bailed out.
Right.
And your body is 70, 80% water. So if they can't bail you out, then you will be put in a battery because your body is a biological battery based on water. So they will put you into a cell. That's what you call a little battery. That has the juice in it. Is a cell. And so they put you in a cell because your body is a battery. And so there's all kinds of, and if you're going to buy a car, if you want to buy a lot of cars at one time, you can get a fleet price. And there's about 100 different terms that we use every day in relation to that. And the very concept of maritime admiralty or banking law is based on the sea, as I said, on the water. Right. And so we understand that on water, all business is done on a ship. I mean, how else are you going to do any business on the water without a ship? So that's why you have all the words and terms that we use in relation to business is a ship. You have citizenship, sportsmanship, courtship, scholarship, friendship. My God, you can go down the line and think of all the words that are end in ship.
Right.
And so, when you were born, your mother delivered you. And so you were a delivery room. And so the male of the species, the male manufactures while the woman delivers the product. And that's why all ships on the earth are female. Airships, rocket ships, sailing ships, it doesn't matter. If it's a ship, it has a captain, then it is female. That's why all you'll hear captains of their ships, airships, pilots of planes, they'll say she's a good plane, or she's a good seaworthy, she's this and she's that. Well, because ships are female, because females deliver the product. And so your mother, your father manufactured, your mother delivered the product. And so when you came down through your mother's birth canal, and you came out of your mother's water, her water broke, and you came out into the world, and so your mother was delivering the ship. She was the ship that delivered the product. Now, when a ship pulls into a harbor, it's parked at the dock. And every item on that ship has to have a certificate of manifest. Because yesterday the ship wasn't here, but this morning, the ship came in with $800 million worth of Toyotas or televisions or whatever. So those products have come in on water. And so the ship brought them in. So we're talking about a lot of money here, banking, money exchange. So the ship comes in, it parks at the dock, and where the ship is sitting at the dock is referred to in maritime law as the ship's berth. B-E-R-T-H is the berth of a ship. A ship is sitting in her berth. And she's a good ship, and she's sitting in her berth. and therefore anything that comes off that ship is money changing hands, so it has to have its own certificate of manifest, which is called a birth certificate. And so you came out of your mother's water, you have to have a birth certificate. It's got to be signed by the doc. The doc has to sign your birth certificate. And so and so once you understand how the world works, how money works, and once you get a birth certificate, look on your birth certificate, and it's on security paper. It's on bank security paper. It's on the same kind of paper that they make money, dollar bills off of. It's security paper. And look at the edges of a birth certificate, and it will tell you bank security paper.
Wow.
And so at the bottom of your birth certificate, on the left-hand bottom, you will see on birth certificates, it says, this birth certificate is the property of the Department of Commerce. That's where your birth certificate goes, to the Department of Commerce, because you are a maritime admiralty that was delivered. You're a product that was delivered, so you are money. You're a commercial piece of what the law actually calls a human being is movable property. In law, the judges will tell you that you are referred to in banking as a movable property, because you are property, you're owned. But you are able to move around, so you're movable property, and or you are a human resource. And so, it's just a very interesting way the world actually works. And that's why I say all the time, I'm saying it again, that there is no hope for America. There is no hope for the world. I don't see any hope for anything good coming out of this world. And the reason why is simple. People say, well, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. And I say, yes, the light is a train coming. Because, and I've had so many people tell me, well, the world is waking up. People are waking up to what's going on. And I'm saying, yes, that's what prisoners do in a prison. Every morning they wake up, but they're still in a prison, even when they wake up. And so what? I would prefer just to stay asleep. And so people are in a prison, and when they wake up, they're going to find out it's too late. It's way too late. You should have woke up a long time ago. You should have understood, like the law says. It's in the law book. It says, ignorance of the law is no excuse. You should have understood what was going on. The founding fathers of America said that, that freedom and liberty are the responsibility of the citizens to educate themselves, learn how your government works, how government works, go to school and read a book and understand history, understand how commerce works. Go to a law library and look up the word commerce. Look up, especially the word commerce and another word, Congress. Go to any good law library or go to a law dictionary, and look up the word Congress, because America has a Congress. Well, look it up in the law and see what it means. And look up the word commerce. We think it means business. No, it doesn't. Look it up in a law dictionary. So when the lawyers are using in court the term commerce, that you did this, that in commerce, it doesn't mean business. It means sex. Sex is called, in law, commerce. That's why you have to have a license to get married, because you're dealing in commerce. You're dealing with sex, commerce, business. And so whoever I am with is none of your business. And whatever I do with the woman in my life is none of your business. Right. Why? Because she's my partner. Business. Got a contract. And so if your contract has a problem with your partner, you're not going to talk to God. You're going to court. Why? Because you have a contract, and it's a business contract. It's based on commerce. Commerce is sex. And your commercial contract with that woman, or she with her husband, it's a business. And who gave you that contract? Well, the government. What is your government? It's the Congress. Oh, the Congress was the one who was responsible for overseeing your contract. Well, the word Congress means sex. Look it up in the dictionary. Look up the word Congress. Mm-hmm. There's co-res, and then there's sex congress. And so Congress and commerce and marriage license and a license to do this, a license to do that. And when your baby is born, it's a maritime admiralty product. You don't own the baby. You had a contract. And so, it's very simple once you understand that you are a corporation. You are a company, and when I see you with somebody, I tell you, you know what, that girl you were with last night, she's bad company. What do you mean company? Well, she's bad company. And then you say, look at mind your own business.
Wow.
Business, company. And so you have to understand that you, by law, every single person listening to this, by law, and you will find out if you have to go to court, you are a corporation. Your body is a security on the New York Stock Exchange. You are yourself a corporation. That's why when you die, you're a corpse. And so, I'm just amazed of how much people don't know and how much they don't care to know.
Right.
And so since you don't understand anything, and you don't know anything, and you don't realize what's going on, and it's just a one big circus, and people are enjoying the show, but nobody knows what's going on, except the people who are in power. They know what's going on. Mm-hmm. And so, again, I've said this God knows how many hundreds of times. I feel that the world I live in, the people of the world I live in, are like animals on the Serengeti plains of Africa. You see these beautiful animals, they're all out there, but they're by the thousands, the tens of thousands. And they're all out there grazing in the sun, enjoying their life, and basically eating and drinking to stay alive and tending to their young, and that's all they know. They're just out there doing what they do to find something to eat, get something to drink, and move along with all the herds, and they all think alike, and they all look alike, and they all act alike, and they all eat the same thing, and they all do the same thing, and they all have their children with them, and not one of the animals out there on the plains of Africa intellectually understands what's going on. They don't even know why they were alive. They're not even aware that they were born. They're just here, and they do what they do, and when they die, and so they're totally unorganized. They have no idea how they got here. They don't even care. Well, they could get something to eat and stay alive. That's all the animals are caring about. But they don't realize that they're lions. The lions are highly organized. Absolutely. They're predators. And so they're crawling in the grass, staying down under the radar, so to speak. And they're contemplating what they're going to do with this herd. And so the herd could be 5,000 animals in that herd, but when the 6 lions come into the picture, the whole herd is useless. It cannot defend itself from that 6 lions, even though there's 4,000 animals in that herd. They can't do anything to protect themselves, so they just run. It's just a big stampede. That's the way we humans are. We can't protect nothing. We don't know nothing. We don't understand nothing. We're ignorant, ill-informed, unread, self-centered, egotistical, know-it-all, pompous, arrogant, and stupid.
Unfortunately, Mr. Maxwell, that seems to be the overall consensus with the masses. I know it's mind-boggling, really, when you find out, the root of all evil, such as maritime law, and that still this doesn't fire up, a fire under people's bellies to rise up and overthrow these 6 lions you're speaking of. Now, Mr. Maxwell, tell our listening audience about your vast knowledge in the field of astrotheology.
Well, that's another subject. But actually, what we've been talking about is business, and I'm not a businessman. I couldn't care less about business,
right,
or banks or anything. That's why I don't own anything, and I don't have anything. 72 years old. I'm totally broke. I don't own any property. I have no children. I own nothing. I've got nothing. And I live in one room by myself with nothing. And the reason why is because I never have been interested in business. I don't care about it. I understand it. I understand how the banking industry works. I understand how government works. I've studied it for 53 years. I'm thoroughly well informed as to how corporate business works, city, county, state, and federal business works. I understand it. I know what the words mean. I've studied it all my life, but I'm not interested in it. But what I really am interested in is spiritual values. I'm interested in God. I'm interested in why we're here. I'm interested in who created us. We animals. Well, that's all we are animals. And so I'm really interested in how life developed on this planet. And as a matter of fact, where in the hell did this planet come from? Because with all of our vast equipment to look at the heavens, we're so profoundly stupid that we're out there studying the heavens, never realizing for a moment you're living on a planet that is the most incredible thing in all of creation. Because all the planets that we know about and all that we can see and all that we theorize are out there, and all the ones that are in our solar system that we can actually take pictures of and see, they're just round balls of dirt, just round balls of gas or dirt, whatever. And that's all they are, except for the Earth. The Earth is teeming with life, from insects and germs and dinosaurs and birds and humans. It's crawling with life and water and atmosphere. And the moon is the exact size so that on a full eclipse of the sun, the moon covers the sun perfectly. And we live through all of this and never for a moment wonder, why is the moon the size that it is? And where did the moon come from?
Right.
No one's ever thought about asking something so simple as that. Well, the moon is not indigenous to this planet or to this solar system, because if you look at the moon, which most people have never looked up, they always look down. People seldom ever look up. That's where all the action is, above you. And so we don't see any of that. There are UFOs and aliens and God knows all kinds of stuff going on, chemtrails and UFOs and all kinds of technology in the air and in the sky at night. But who cares? We're watching baseball. We're watching basketball. We don't give a damn what's up in the air.
Right.
Yeah, and so they're spraying you with all kinds of highly toxic chemicals that are going to kill you.
Right.
And but happily, nobody knows anything about it. And it's just as well because you couldn't do anything about it anyway because you're too stupid.
Now, Mr. Maxwell, being that we just brought up UFO, can you tell us about the original secret society? Being that you study esoteric societies, the original secret society, that being the Brotherhood of the Snake, who are believed to walk among us today as hybrid humans, basically making the Masons look like weak wannabes. I mean, compared to this group, I believe this group is in league or could have some type of extraterrestrial bloodline. Your thoughts?
Well, that's my personal belief. It's just a belief. You're asking me for a subjective opinion, and that's what I believe. Mm-hmm. I believe that mankind, as we know us today, is a hybrid creature. We are different from what we were originally. Totally different. Because when you go back into ancient history, and I'm talking about prehistoric, go back tens of thousands of years ago, we find and buried in the earth all kinds of skeletal remains of creatures that science today, they have to admit they exist, so they don't know what to call them when they dig them up and find them everywhere. So these creatures, skeletal remains, we call them hominids. A hominid is like a human skeletal remain, but it's a little different, especially in the head itself is different. Some are larger, some are shaped a little different, but they have only 2 legs and 2 arms, so we call them hominids. And so there's been a big science built on the study of hominid creatures, and we call them Neanderthal man, or Cro-Magnon man, or Neanderthal man, and all these ancient titles of ancient creatures and ancient mankind. And then there's the new thing, which is called the human. And so I am totally convinced that the Bible and the Old and New Testament, both those books, both the Old and the New Testament, are metaphors. They are symbolic stories.
Absolutely.
But when you understand Genesis, especially about the first 10 chapters of Genesis, I think that whoever wrote the first 10 chapters, and it wasn't Moses that wrote, but whoever wrote the first 10 chapters of Genesis knows something that most humans have no idea about at all, and that the churches are totally unaware of what's right there in your face. In Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, you will hear preachers and people and Christians talking about Genesis 1 have no concept in their mind whatsoever of what it's actually saying. What the Bible is actually, in fact, saying, if you read it correctly and just read the words, it's saying that aliens came here from another place in space, came here from somewhere out there, and saw the indigenous creatures that we call hominids, and procreated with us and created a new kind of creature. That's what the Bible says.
Wow.
But the Christians are not told that. Why? It's because there's a whole system of commerce and government and theology and philosophy that forms the basis of Western civilization for thousands of years. And to tell the people the real truth about what the Bible really says would be to cause chaos in the religious. God knows we already have enough chaos in the religious world to start with. But if you told the Muslims the real truth and what's in the Quran, the actual truth, if you told the Christians the actual, legitimate, real, provable truth in the Scriptures, or if you told the Jews the real story in the Old Testament and in the old writings of the Jews, if you told these people the real truth, there would be even more chaos than what it is today. Happily, all they're doing today is just killing themselves and murdering each other. But if you told them the real story, they would be totally in chaos. Can you imagine the Muslims finding out what the Quran actually says is totally different than what they thought it said? And I'm especially interested in the Christian way of thinking and the Christian philosophies, because I understand
right.
It's an extraordinary story that is being told to Christians as opposed to what the Bible actually says.
I mean, Jordan, Genesis is basically thrown out the window with that statement.
Totally, yeah. I mean, right off the bat, Genesis 1:1 is totally mistranslated. It's translated into English. But my God, it was translated from English back to Latin, and from Latin back to Greek, and from Greek Aramaic, and so it's been mistranslated, retranslated, transliterated, and back and forth and back and forth, and then of course comes King James, and King James was a Catholic, and then he had his translators translate the Bible the way he wanted it to read. Mm-hmm. They became known as the King James Version, and King James said that this is the one he wants everyone under him, under his kingship. He wants everybody to read this particular Bible, not the other ones. And so it became known as the Authorized Version. He didn't authorize you to go reading the old ancient Aramaic. Mm-hmm. He didn't authorize you to go doing research into the Hebrew language and find out it's not Hebrew, it's Phoenician language, and break down the Phoenician language and find out what the Bible is really saying. No, he authorized you to read this. And if he catches you reading something he didn't authorize you, guess what's going to happen? So that's why today the churches are filled with lies and silliness and nonsensical. It's not just a fraud. Christianity is not just a fraud. It's a shameful display of ignorance and stupidity and ill-informed, pompous arrogance. Watch Sunday television. Watch the Christian television shows, TBN, and if that doesn't make you sick, then there's something wrong with you.
Right.
And so when you begin to see how there's been mistranslated Genesis, I'll give you an example. Genesis 1:1 says, "In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth." But in the ancient Old Phoenician Canaanite language, which we call Hebrew, Hebrew is not Hebrew. Hebrew is Phoenician. It's spoken by Hebrews, but it's not Hebrew. It's a Phoenician language. But in the old original language of the Bible, it was mistranslated by the translators. It says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." Well, God is, in the old language, El. El was God. And so if you go back to the King James original text, it will say, "In the beginning, the Elohim created the heavens and the earth." Not El. Elohim is a totally different word than El. And Elohim means God in the plural. It's like writing the word car, mm-hmm. C-A-R, and then you put an S on the end of it. It becomes more than one, cars. Well, in the Phoenician or Hebrew language, you add Elohim to the word El, means it's a feminine plural. It's a plural. Therefore, the correct translation, which most people have no idea about, if you want to read it from the original text, it would be, "In the beginning, the gods, Elohim." More than one. Elohim means gods in the plural.
Right.
And so, therefore, in the beginning, the gods created the heavens and the earth. And then later in Genesis 1:28, it says, "And then the gods, Elohim, said," when they are looking to make this creature called man, the Bible says, God says, "Come, let us," U-S, us, more than one. "Come, let us make man." And then the Christians will say, there it is, right there. God is creating man. Well, the rabbis have told me over the years that it doesn't say that God created man. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that God created man, period. That's ludicrous. The Bible does not say God created man. Go back and read it in Genesis 1:28, when it says, "Come, let us make man in our image, after our likeness." Not "let us make man." No, let us make man in our image. He's already here, but let's make him to look like us. And so so that means, first of all, God's, Elohim. Let us create man in our image. And then later on, the Bible says that the gods said, after creating us and to look like them, it says, "Now man has become as one of us." He's now like us. He's smart and clever and destructive and filled with rage and know-it-all and pompous and smart and clever and develops rockets and lasers and rocketry and atomic sciences. He's like us, U.S. And so every time God appears to man, like in Genesis 18, when God appears to Abraham, he appears as a man. He sits down and has dinner with Abraham. God who created mankind, go read it. The very creator, God the Father who created mankind, sat under a tree with two other men and had dinner with Abraham. And Abraham fixed him dinner, and then they sat around and talked. That's what the Bible says, that God, the creator, sat and had dinner with Abraham. And so, you know, it's quite interesting when you find out how much you don't know and how much the churches, synagogues, and mosques have not told you.
Absolutely, Jordan. I mean, we went from cavemen to the Renaissance, and now it seems that the Illuminati wishes to mutate humanity into some mindless, androgynous being. I mean, we see it definitely unfolding, people like you and I. Now, Jordan, give us some of the meanings behind Masonic folklore, such as what does the G stand for in Freemasonry, and tell us about their gods, such as Yabulan and the Baphomet.
Well, you know, it's based on the Old Testament. Basically, Freemasonry is an Old Testament religion, or it's an Old Testament. What would I say? A creation. It's based on the Old Testament. And so I don't really see anything evil about Freemasonry as such. Yes, it is true that there are many people. There are people in Masonry all around the world, not just America, that themselves are evil. But then that's also true of civilization, period. I mean, it's like any other human organization or group, that there are good people in it and there are bad people. Well, the same thing can be said in the Catholic Church.
Right.
There's mafiosis, there's Michael Corleone and the mob and the mafia, and the Jesuits and the assassins, and all of these evil people in the Catholic Church. But my mother was in the Catholic Church too, and I was, and my family were, and we loved the spirituality and the Bible and God. So we had no idea in the world that the thing was actually run by criminals.
Absolutely.
So, you know, most of the people in the Catholic Church are just ordinary good people, like they're ordinary good people in Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons and Seventh-day Adventists and Presbyterians. The people are just good people. They're normal, regular people. It's the people at the very top who are running the organization who are the criminals. And then you find out above those criminals, the guys who really own the organizations are real criminals. And then when you start going into the real criminals who are the brains behind Jehovah's Witnesses, the real criminals are the brains behind the Mormon Church, the real criminals who are running and put together what we call Muslims, where the Muslim religion really came from, and where did the Christian religion really come from. Once you start breaking that down, then it becomes scary. It becomes frightening, because what you're looking at is a world order of darkness, secret societies, lies, the manipulation of sex, drugs, murder. It's a frightening world, and you know that's why many highly intelligent people, well-informed people, have committed suicide when they begin to see how the world really works. And it becomes very dangerous to talk about religion and talk about the church, because the church, what it really is. I was told by an FBI agent in San Diego, in a conversation I had with him, he called me to warn me about my work. And he said, what you're doing is you are looking for trouble. And he says, And he told me, he said, if any real serious harm comes to you, it's most likely not going to be your government. It's going to be the church. Because this FBI agent, San Diego, said to me, the church is what we call in the FBI organized crime at its best. There's nothing on the earth that outdoes Christianity for being organized crime. It is a criminal syndicate. It preys on the ignorant, the ill-informed, the old, and the weak. It rapes its children. It is a dirty and a filthy and dirty organization that is based on politics, money, corruption, sex, drugs, the human trafficking, buying and selling children, buying and promoting mafia, La Cosa Nostra, all the mafiosi gangsters, all from Sicily and from Italy, the secret societies like Giuseppe Mazzini, Adriano Limi, all of the Illuminati masters in the mafia. All of this stuff is out of Italy, and Italy was famous. Rome ruled the world, and Rome, since the founding of the Roman Empire, some 2,600 years ago, Rome has ruled the world. Well, first of all, obviously, Rome has ruled Europe for thousands of years, and Europe has dominated the world for thousands of years. So all roads lead to Rome. So all the violence and revolutions and religions and cults and Islamic religion, that's all from Rome. The Romans dreamt up this thing we call Islam.
They dreamt up this Jesuits. Prison, right, Mr. Maxwell?
Say it again?
They dreamt up this prison.
Oh, yeah, they dreamt up the whole thing. It's called Rome.
You know, unfortunately, we are wrapping up. We're in the final minute of the show. Mr. Maxwell, an amazing interview. I mean, I can guarantee that they're going to give us an Osiris Oscar for this one out because we're out here in Hollywood. So please let our listening audience know where they can keep up with your work. Give them your websites.
Well, the thing is, I don't have a website as of the moment. It's been taken from me. So, but I do have an email, and my email is Jordan without the A, Jordn. I should say that I have a radio show, but we're not doing much with it right now because we're under attack. The radio show's under attack. So until we can go to court and get these people off of our back who are attacking us, you can go to Jordan Maxwell Show and listen to the shows. But we're not doing any shows anymore for the moment because we're under attack. But you can email me, which is Jordan without the A. So it's Jordn Maxwell at gmail.com.
And
Jordn Maxwell at gmail.com.
And, you know, they can find you here on the Bruce Montalvo Show because I plan on bringing you back as soon as possible. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Maxwell.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, that was researcher and scholar, acclaimed researcher and scholar, Mr. Jordan Maxwell. Now, unfortunately, we're wrapping up, but in case you don't hear from me, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and good night. This has been the Bruce Montalvo Show reminding you that the freedom of the press is our right and our responsibility. Till next time.